Rounding numbers. Just for a minute, let's ignore this rounding number slogan and we'll get back to it when we start actually rounding. Rounding numbers is often used in many real life situations. We use rounding when we want to communicate a figure or a number where being exact is not required. I might be talking to a friend about a Jacksonville Jaguar game last Sunday, and I might say there were a lot of people at the stadium. There was about 45,000 people, when in fact maybe that day I heard there were 44,860 people, and I just rounded it up to 45,000 because it wasn't important to convey the exact number. Some people, when they're saving for a new car, they might say, yep, that car's going to cost me about $30,000. However, the car might cost exactly $29,500. Parents do a lot of rounding in their head when they're shopping at the supermarket. They round each item to the nearest dollar to make sure they don't go over their budget because it gives them an idea of exactly what to pay when they get to the cash register. So rounding is an important skill to know. So once you understand this concept, you'll be able to do it in your head quite quickly as you can do any basic arithmetic. So let's talk about a scenario. Let's use the Jacksonville Jaguar game. Let's say you went to a game and you heard that day that there were 60, okay, let's put a pencil on here, 67,893 fans in attendance. And you wanted to round this number to the nearest thousand. So I'm going to go through a procedure, and you might want to take some notes. There is a step-by-step procedure on how to round. If you have the notes already, follow along. Step number one is you want to underline the number you're rounding to. So in this case, we are rounding to the nearest thousand. So I'm going to go over here and I'm going to go ones, tens, hundreds, thousands. I'm rounding to the nearest thousand. I'm going to underline that. Step two, look at the number just to the right of the number you're rounding to. I like to put an arrow over it actually. So you place your arrow over it and then you move over to this rounding slogan that we talked about earlier. And in this slogan it says, 5 or more raise the score of the underlined number. So here's the underlined number, and I'm looking at the number where the arrow is placed over it, and I'm going to say the slogan. If this is 5 or more, raise the score of the underlined number. So I would raise that 7 to an 8. If this number was 4 or less, I would let it rest. Don't change this underlined number. So as you can see, the number is 5 or more, so I'm going to raise this score of the underlined number from a 7 to an 8. Now once you do that, the next step would be to change all the numbers to the right of that number to a 0. And then the number to the left of the underlined number stays the same as a 6. So my new number, when rounding 67,893 to the nearest thousand, would be 68,000. So I would say to my friend, hey, 68,000 people attended that Jacksonville game, about 68,000 people. Let's see what this number would look like if I raised it to the nearest 10,000. So we'll rewrite it again over here. 67,893. And I want to go this time to the nearest 10,000. So I would follow my step-by-step procedure and I would underline the number I'm rounding to. Ones column, tens column, hundreds column, thousands, 10,000s. So let's underline that 6. And then step 2, I would look at this number to the right, and I like to place an arrow over it, as I said earlier, because it kind of keeps me in check on what I'm using to determine this underlying number. So then I say my rounding slogan. I'm looking at the 7 and I say 5 or more, raise that score. 4 or less, let it rest. Well, the 7 is 5 or more, so I'm going to take this 6, the underlying number, and I'm going to raise it to a 7. Then everything to the right becomes a 0. And I like to do my rounding underneath the original number and keep everything in line because it's quite helpful in keeping it organized. So you would now say that the number 67,893 rounded to the nearest 10,000 would be 70,000. I hope that you enjoyed this little tutorial, and I'd like you to get a piece of paper and a pen and round these numbers to the nearest 1,000. Here we go. How about 21,499? And how about 35,501? Keep on rounding. Enjoy your evening.